When the trap failed, Smith hit the waitress. The girl was knocked out cold, and Smith was uncontrollable. I have to call the police. When I returned, he was dead, blood streaming from a cut on his forehead. That's when I made another phone call to defense attorney Gavin.
Mr. Gavin, you were at the Borscht Club the night of the murder?
I dine with him rather frequently.
And he talked to the defendant on the phone directly after the murder?
Quite against my will, I had become involved in a murder. I thought I might be in need of a lawyer, so I called him.
You were planning this all along, weren't you, right? Just because you wanted to drag me into your little murder trial.
The only thing I want is the truth, as I did back then and now.
I thought my office was doing you a favor when we took you on your defense. It appears I was wrong.
Smack.
Very well, the defense may cross-examine the witness. Justice.
Sir!
He's lying, and you're going to expose him.
Understood, sir. Mr. Gavin, this cannot end well. Why can't I have a normal trial? This is why we can't have nice trials.
This is why we can't have nice trials.
You had dinner with Mr. Gavin?
Yes, he dines with me at the Borscht Bowl Club quite frequently, as I've said before. We were enjoying a usual dinner at our usual spot as usual.
Usual?
I always eat at the table closest to the piano.
I see. Where Mr. Smith was sitting. So the plates and such on the table were from your dinner?
Indeed, the remnants of my meal with Christoph. We dined for 2 hours, then Christoph left after that.
"5 minutes? So the two of them could have passed in the restaurant during that time?"
That would have been a fateful encounter, to be sure.
Oh, Mr. Wright, what was it you said? Christoph Gavin and Shady Smith may have met.
I believe I did say that.
Here, I was all nervous about this meeting. And now we hear they just passed in the hall?
That does seem a little weak as a pretense for murder.
Oh, it would be, if that was all that really happened.
Come on, Mr. Wright. What are you hiding this time?
When the trap failed, Smith hit the waitress. Wait, I read this.
About this failed trap. This is the same trap that Ms. Olga Orley mentioned? The plan was simple. Elegant, really. You see, we set up a trap of sorts. I was to plant a card in Wright's pocket beforehand, and then deal 5 aces during one of their games. When their hands were revealed, Smith would call him out and search Wright. He would then pull out the planted card, and the trap would snap shut.
You once want the cards.
Just like that, the legend would be dashed to pieces.
Yes, a harmless prank, in essence. It was by a quirk of fate that I happened to discover...
A quirk?
I happened to put my hand in my pocket and found a card.
The card she planted?
Yes, I snuck a peek at it and I found it was the 5 of hearts. I had a feeling something might happen, so I disposed of the card before the game.
Disposed? Where?
There was an empty bottle of grape juice I had been drinking right beside me. I threw the card inside the bottle.
An empty bottle of grape juice?
The murder weapon?
Yes, I rolled it up and shoved it in. The colored glass makes it hard to see.
A battle of wits between the deceiver and the would-be deceived. That sounds like terrific drama.
A card inside the murder weapon. That's strange. Did the police miss it in their investigation? Maybe I'll take a look.
There we go. Do the fun little thing, and this is an awful mess. I think you have to look at the bottom, but I'm not sure. Oh, hey, check that out. No, didn't click the right thing.
Okay.
No, you do have to do it, though.
Right, but not yet.
Oh, wait, it only works when... Oh, that's right, yeah. Smack!
Mr. Wright, the poker head of courtroom number 3 approves of this battle of wits. Please revise your testimony with this new information.
Information. Da-da-da-da, I've read all this stuff before.
Mr. Wright, if I may.
Yes.
I've examined the bottle, and I don't see a card in here.
No?
What, Mr. Wright? Surely isn't all you have to say for yourself?
I can't say that I know what happened to the card. I did put it in that bottle, however.
Uh-huh.
Perhaps a 5th person came and took it out. Oh, and a 6th person could have helped. Mr. Gavin, Mr. Wright is your client. My apologies, Your Honor.
I won't have you disparaging our investigation either. We looked inside that bottle. There was nothing.
So what's going on? Is Mr. Wright hoodwinking us again? Or did the card just disappear?
In any case, please continue the cross-examination. I'm afraid decisive contradictions call for decisive evidence.
What? Oh.
Push him harder, Justice. Break him. It's just you and the witness in the ring. Go for the KO.
Why do I get the feeling we're not on our client's side anymore?
That evening, I read this before.
You made the call to the police from the first floor of the restaurant, correct?
Exactly. Cell phones don't get a signal down to the hideout.
Was anyone else on the first floor at that time?
Not a soul. It was the middle of the night, after all.
Well, that's the best time.
So there, in the darkened restaurant, I called the cops. After making the call, I returned to the hideout. I can say the why, because it didn't seem right to leave the injured waitress alone. Down, upbeat, not really, it's cool.
And when you returned, the victim was already
dead. Dead, yes. I'll admit, I was a little startled when I walked in.
A little?
He was bleeding from his forehead, after all.
I guess I'd be startled too if I walked in on a scene like that.
That's when I made another phone call to defense attorney Gavin. It's like...
Mr. Wright, if I may.
Yes?
Take a look at this photograph of the crime scene. See the victim here? He's wearing a hat. I wouldn't think you could see blood on his forehead.
Good point.
Justice, next time you point out an inconsistency, put a little more oomph into it. Mr. Wright, can you explain this to the court?
I forgot to mention something. I was the one who put the hat on his head.
Huh?
You put the hat on the dead man's head?
He wore it through our entire poker game. After calling the police, when I returned to the scene, his head was in full view, just like in the photograph.
And?
I picked his hat up off the floor and put it on his head.
What? Why would you do a thing like that?
All I can say is, I'm sorry. But that's the only thing I touched at the crime scene.
So, Ms. Orley didn't see it? It being the victim's, his head?
I think not. She was out cold. I believe I was the only one who witnessed his head.
Ah, here we go again.
Mr. Gavin.
Ahem, pardon. It just seems that our client is determined to lie his way through this case.
he's still our client, right? He's paying us. That makes him our client.